Hi, excuse me. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Thursday, day 4 of the MA conference and our first session of the day and our fourth tour of the week. This is the one I've been waiting for, so I'm really excited to get started and also to see so many people here. Before we start, I have a couple of housekeeping announcements to make. We're going to watch a recording of the tour before immediately going to questions. But if you have something that you'd like to ask, then can you pop this in the Q&A while the tour is ongoing? I've got a few reserved questions up my sleeve, but I'd rather ask yours if possible. So it'd be nice to have some there for when the tour finishes. If you want to use chat, then you can do this to introduce yourselves, say whether you visited Creswell Crags before, etc. We also have closed captioning and audio description available, provided by Stage Text and Vocalise. For audio description, I'm going to pause there actually and say that Stage Text isn't here at the moment, so we'll hold on that. But for the audio description, if you click on interpretation in the menu bar and choose the French option, you'll be able to hear the video and the speaker's audio described. If you've got any difficulties, then do send me a private chat message. This webinar is not going to be locked, so if you lose connection or you have to leave, you can rejoin at any time. And like all our sessions, it's been recorded, so you can catch up at a later date if you want. Right, I'm going to hand over to Rebecca and Jennifer now to get the tour started. Yeah, go ahead. I'll disappear for a bit.
Excellent. Your cat's making an appearance in the background. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Nottinghamshire Derbyshire border and Creswell Crags. I'm going to go straight ahead and start the video. Just to say that you will see some digital graphics in the video. This is part of a project that we're working on with Museums Association funding. These are not the final graphics. This is underway, so there will be much better digital representations of the cave. So these are very much a work in progress. And now I'm going to try and share my screen. Let's see how this goes. Wish me luck, everybody.
Welcome to Creswell Crags. What you've got here is a magnesian limestone gorge. So you can see the rock running down both sides of the gorge. The rock itself is magnesian limestone. It's about 260 million years old, and all down either side, both on the Nottinghamshire side and the Derbyshire side, we have caves. Now, these caves during the Ice Age were shelter to both Neanderthals in the Mousterian stage and also Homo sapiens in the Gravettian and the Magdalenian. Now, people came here much like the animals for food, for sustenance, and we found a lot of evidence here of people hunting reindeer and trapping mountain hare. In the 1870s, the archaeologists did the first systematic excavations of the caves and found a lot of bone, butchered bone, stone tools, and evidence of the people and animal living here.
And here we're at Church Hole, one of the most important of all the Creswell caves. The reason for its importance is the Ice Age art that lies within. We have a collection of 13,000-year-old or thereabouts engravings. Found in 2003, they're some of the only ones of their kind known in the British Isles. We'll show you some of the best examples. So we are actually inside Church Hole now, and I'm going to show you a couple of the biggest panels of rock art that we have here. So if you just turn your attention up to this panel, one of the first things that will strike you, unfortunately, is the modern graffiti that we have, so very deeply etched, PM's initials and 1948, the date where this was written on the wall. But unbeknownst to PM and the folks that were with them at the time, they were actually drawing on top of this very ancient artwork. So if you look close to where the 1 of 1940 is placed, you can see this natural little hole in the wall. That is a natural feature used by these late Ice Age, late Magdalenian or Creswellian people to form the eye of one of the beasts they would have seen roaming around this region. So with the eye in place, looking above it, you can see this engraving of an ear up to an antler on this deer stag. A little antler tine coming forward, then down the front of its face, to a natural mouth, a burrow cast left behind in this magnesian limestone. This forms the mouth of the deer. Under its chin, you follow down the throat to the front of the body, and you can see the detail of the front leg, like so. The second front leg just behind it, under the belly of the deer, and then to its rear leg. The second rear leg, there's just the faintest trace here of the engraving before it's lost owing to the ravages of age, erosion and graffiti on the panel. But you can pick up the back of the neck where it naturally protrudes, giving it a slightly 3D effect to the stag's head. Also on this panel, we see some of these abstract linear marks, also commonplace for Upper Paleolithic artworks. 3 little notches in a row, just here, then 9 in a row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. And then another 3 more eroded examples just here. Now these are very important, they're fundamental for our understanding of this site because they are overlain in this region by flowstone, stalactite. And this stalactite has been subjected to uranium series direct dating. So this sample went back to the lab, analysed by Alistair Pike and some others, and they gave it an estimated date of 12,600 years, give or take. So this is actually a minimum age. Overlaying the art, this is growing after the etching was put on the wall, meaning that these artworks are at least 12,600 years old, making them solidly Pleistocene and probably dating from that late Magdalenian period. And here we have a very rare depiction of a long-necked bird. Usually in Ice Age art, what you tend to see are grand herbivores, with carnivores and smaller animals much more scarce in their depiction. And this one's particularly nice example because it's using some more of these natural features in the rock. You see these bulges here and here are more burrow casts, natural protrusions in the stone. And a Magdalenian person has come with a burin, flint tool for chiselling and scraping this rock and deepened those burrow casts, creating the head, eye, beak and neck of this bird, possibly an ibis, which are more synonymous with warmer areas, making this quite a mysterious image indeed. Now this area that the neck backs onto is another natural bulge in the rock, but it looks like this is supposed to be the rounded body of the ibis, with tail feathers coming up at the back and the striations across it looking like its plumage. A beautiful depiction of quite a rarely seen Ice Age animal.
Hi there, I'm Angharad Jones, Collections Officer here at Creswell Crags Museum and Heritage Centre, and I'm going to give you a quick overview of our collections. So, given that our museum is located in the actual gorge where the caves are, the majority of our collections are paleontology and archaeology based. However, we also have an extensive library collection, a handling collection and our comparative collection here. So these are modern items. Theoretically, we would have the bones of animals here that we actually found in the cave, so that would help scientists to identify the bones and the teeth that come out of the cave. However, there are a few oddities here. So for example, we have some whale skeletons here, including a baleen whale. So these have never actually been found in Creswell Crags. However, they are pretty useful for our education sessions, and pre-COVID, people who used to come into the stores used to really enjoy seeing these really massive bones. We do have some animals here that did actually live in Creswell Crags, and my favourite is just down here. So I'll just show you on the floor. So this is a hippopotamus. So it's pretty massive and pretty heavy. And hippopotamuses lived in Creswell Crags and as far north as I think in Yorkshire in Britain around about 125,000 years ago. So that was a warm period. They lived alongside straight-tusked elephants, narrow-nosed rhinoceroses, hyenas, cave lions when the country was warm. So I'm just going to take you down here to have a look at our paleontology collection. So here actually, down here, we have some bags of sediment that have not actually yet been sorted. So as well as like the animals like the hippopotamuses and those big animals that have been found in the caves of Creswell Crags, we also found lots and lots of tiny animals. So researchers would take these bags of sediment, sort them under a microscope and pick out all the tiny bones and teeth and identify animals such as voles. So there's a little incisor there from a rodent. That takes lots and lots of time. So just rolling back the rocking. You can see down there that I have lots of nice acid-free archival boxes that have just recently been purchased because of a grant received from the Museum Development East Midlands. So if you saw all those bankers boxes inside the comparative collection row, they are going to be replaced by those archival boxes. Okay, so here, this is probably our most impressive looking row in the collection store. So here are the paleontology and archaeology collections from the Creswell Crags and Creswell Heritage area. So we have Steatley Quarry Cave here, so ST. We have Robin Hood Cave here, and our largest collection is Pinhole, and if you see here we have just over 30,000 specimens from Pinhole. So the majority of these are tiny tubes in boxes, and they are comprised primarily of tiny bone fragments and the bones and teeth of small animals like foals and lemmings. The majority of Pinhole that we have here in the collection is from the middle of the last glacial period, so it was very, very cold and really ideal for lemmings to be living here. Okay, and finally I've just picked out a few bones from the Pinhole collection, and these are the larger animals. So here I've just curated a selection of animals that were very typical of the species that lived in Creswell Crags and elsewhere in Britain during the middle of the last cold period. So we have a horse here, we have a brown bear, we have a woolly rhinoceros and a reindeer, and here we have a hyena jaw. And then finally here we have a limb bone of an animal, and around the outside you can see gnaw marks. Now these were likely caused by the hyena, and the hyena would have brought its prey into the caves that it inhabited. So Pinhole is a really good example of a hyena den in Creswell Crags. So alongside the remains of the hyena themselves, we found the remains of their prey, especially woolly rhinoceros. And that is our collection store. Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing. I wish we were there, but it was really evocative, and actually to see the stores as well was a real treat, and those objects as well. So thanks so much for organising that for us today. We've got a bit of time for questions. One thing I wanted to pick up on right at the beginning was we obviously got a bit of a sneak peek of those 3D and visualizations that you've been working on. And I just wondered if you could tell us a bit more about what that end product's going to look like. You know, what are your plans for that area of work?
Yeah, certainly. So that's mainly being done by Jeremy Lee, who's from Sheffield Hallam University, and using photogrammetry, he's going to construct quite high resolution renders of hopefully all of our caves eventually, focusing at the beginning on the main show caves. And we've got a sort of prototype because previously he did some digitization of the witch marks that were found at the back of Robin Hood Cave. And the detail that you get on that is actually really good. You can see each individual engraving. So the ones that you've seen in this presentation are very much a rough out as he starts to render the models. But eventually the aim is to have fully 3D renditions of the caves, which we can stream online and also project into one of our small galleries, which are going to use, if anybody's a computer gamer, the Unreal Engine. And we're hoping that we're going to be able to navigate it, perhaps even using console pads, so that your guide will be able to actually move you into whichever part of the cave you want to go and explore a little bit more of, with hotspots in given regions in the caves. And those hotspots are going to trigger some of the artifacts that we're also going to be 3D scanning from the collections. Our context, knowing exactly where things were found, is not great because most of the material from most of our caves was dug in the Victorian period and the records are sloppy at best. But we're going to do our best. This is the job that I'm working on, in trying to basically put the object back in the correct place so we can have a tour that's flexible for people who just want to go and see every little nook and cranny, or for people that really want to know about the archaeology, for example, you know, experts or university groups. That's the intention.
I should say, if anyone wants to find out more about that project and also the funding, because it's from the Esmée Fairbairn Collection Fund, so there's a bit more about that on the MA's website. I'll try and show a link in a moment. Amazing. So I'm going to go to the questions. We've had quite a few. I'm going to go to the first one because I think it's a really important one, which is about the accessibility challenges you face on this site. How, you know, I mean, obviously the tour is one way to overcome that, but how else do you sort of make this an inclusive visiting space, or is it not possible?
Rebecca, do you want to say something about the sort of physical nature of the site?
I mean, we do what we can to make the site as accessible as possible. So though we're in the middle of the countryside, you can access the whole of the gorge. We've got our visitor centre is very accessible. Our actual museum exhibition is very accessible. We've got a lift that helps you get into the gorge itself. So access to the whole site isn't too bad. Obviously, the caves are more of an issue. There is just most of the caves are they're up a flight of wooden steps, and it's not just about the physical access as well. They're quite enclosed spaces, so people with sort of sensory needs and visual needs and things won't always want to go into the caves. We are hoping that the tours are going to help with that. Jen, I don't know if you want to say something about that.
Yeah. So well, when it comes to things like sensory needs, we're very hopeful that the digital tours are going to address some of that, because the gallery in which we are going to project them is going to be in the main building, which is accessible. You can change things like the contrast to some extent, which may help some people who have visual impairments, and it's a less imposing space than the actual cave for people who might have sensory difficulties with the moisture or how enclosed it is. We also try to do what we can for children and adults with special needs, and a little while ago we received a bit of funding from Museum Development East Midlands to produce some sensory backpacks to support people in their exploration of the site. So we try our best, but as with very many heritage sites, there's quite a lot of red tape. The whole area of the site is an SSSI, Scheduled Ancient Monument, so there are limits on how many ramps and solutions that we can put in place, but we're certainly doing what we can at the moment.
There's another question here from Catherine McAlpine that I think is really interesting as well, which is how do you balance giving visitors the context and support without ruining that atmospheric feeling of being in a cave?
Well, I'm one of the leaders of the tour team, the heritage facilitators, and honestly, I think it's just a lot of it is weighted on the skills of the interpreter, because you just need to get a feel for the individual that you're on that tour with. Harder, of course, if you're in a group, but it's entering into a conversation with them, feeling your way, finding out what they actually want to get out of their tour. And if they don't want us to tell us all the context, if they do just want to go into the back of the cave and experience it, we stand back, we leave them alone with their thoughts if need be. If anybody wanted to know more, make ourselves very available to bring that to them after the tour's finished as well. So yeah, it's quite person-centered really how we address that.
It's worth saying as well that other than the steps and the rails needed for access, the caves are sort of untouched. So there's no electric lighting or anything in there. As a tour group, you have to have a torch or wear a torch on your helmet and things. So actually, once you're in the caves, it's not like they're not like show caves. You do feel like you're exploring the cave kind of as it's been left. So that's really nice as well.
Part of the excitement as well, I think. Everyone wants a torch on their head. So elephant in the room with COVID, I suppose. I was speaking to you before the tour started about the latest lockdown. Can you tell some people a bit about how you're addressing the latest lockdown in England and what that means for your spaces?
Well, so I mean, we are closed now to the public as of today. So our winter hours meant we would be only open at weekends this month anyway. So it's less of a closure for us in some ways than probably for other people. We've been open since the beginning of August. Some people might have seen we really struggled financially during the first lockdown. We were very, very close to not ever being able to open again, but thanks to funding from the lottery and recently the DCMS and other bits of funding along the way, we know we're going to survive at least until next year. So what it's enabled us to do is use some of this time to do some project work. So we're all going to be working, we're all going to be really busy, even though we haven't got visitors on site. So the digital project that Jen's working on, streaming sessions for education, and lots of other things as well. We've got a lot of business development work going on, some branding work going on, things like that. So there's a lot of behind the scenes work that, although we can't have visitors at the moment, we should get into 2021 probably stronger than we've ever been, which is actually a really lovely situation to be in. And we do know that we're incredibly lucky, actually, compared to the situation for a lot of sites. People will still be able to walk around Creswell Crags as well. I mean, that's the beauty of our site. I mean, you saw the lovely outdoor spaces. Those don't close. There's a public bridleway through the gorge. So although you won't be able to access the heritage visitor attraction and the museum, people can actually still go. And actually, Creswell Crags is really important for local identity and for local people as well, and they'll be able to still go and to walk around and to and still to enjoy it. So we have to kind of manage the balance of that, of being open to visitors as a sort of an outdoor site, which at the moment is obviously really important to people, but also sort of safeguarding the heritage and the other charitable work that we do as well. So
I presume there's a lot of opportunity there in terms of people, you know, people exploring their local area more and needing spaces like this to go and walk. Can you I mean, are you going to sort of market yourselves during, you know, I don't know how, and I haven't been to the site, so I can't even visualize it, whether you need to, you know, where there's an opportunity there to let people know about the museum and the further opportunity.
There certainly is. We have seen that the rise of staycationing has brought a lot of new visitors to us anyway. So we've been running private cave tours, so where you'd had to pre-book. And we know from the analytics of the booking through the art ticket system from that, we've got a lot of people that are coming from the local area and that haven't been before, which is actually really lovely. So we're hoping to keep in people's minds, but we also don't want people to travel. It's that balance between we're not going to have as many staff there. We're not going to be able to look after visitors in the same way that we usually would. So we don't want lots of people, because we don't want it to become a risky place for local people. But at the same time, it does give us an opportunity to remind people we exist. We were talking before, we're on a lot of people's must visit list that haven't visited us yet. We seem to be one of those sites that people have said, oh, I must go there one day. Now seems like a good time to remind people that when actually hopefully lockdown lifts again, we're a good place to actually come and visit. And we're not that far. We're right in the middle of the country, just off the M1, so you know it's not that far for a lot of people.
I'm plugging for the next MA staff away day to be Creswell Crags, so I'll let you know when it's safe for us all to do that. There's a few questions, quite specific questions about collections, but and maybe this I'll save those and send them to you because they're quite specific. But I suppose I'd ask both of you if you've got a highlight from the collection, what your personal favourite is. Do you want to go first, Jennifer? Maybe.
Yeah, Jen, you go first.
Well, the whole of Church Hole is a bit of a highlight. That's particularly important. I think one of my favourite objects that's on display in the exhibition is
we've lost you.
An ironstone hand axe. So a stone tool, sort of yay shaped. And ironstone's quite a rare material. They're more often made of things like flint. And it's a beautiful little piece made by Neanderthals somewhere between 40 and 55,000 years ago, left behind at Creswell Crags. And to me, that piece is just so special because it's a real contact point, I think, with a whole other species. So that's one of my favourites.
I'm going to go ahead and there's a lot of different things. I must give the ochre horse a mention. It's not actually my favourite, but it's got to have a mention. It's actually part of the British Museum's collection because they're the organisation who received it when it was discovered. But that's a horse's head engraved onto a rib bone that is over 12,000 years old, coloured with ochre pigment. So one of the oldest pieces of coloured portable art that's ever been found in the British Isles. So that's incredibly special. The British Museum have actually got a digitised version of that on their website as well. So go and put Creswell Crags into the British Museum's digitised collection and you can see that. What I think is really special actually is some of our, we've got some flint tools as well, so knapped flint, and you can see an example of a Creswell point, and it's a particular shape of flint that is named for Creswell Crags, which for me, when I first arrived at Creswell Crags with very little knowledge of prehistoric tools, actually finding out that there is a type of flint tool named for Creswell Crags just really brought home to me how important the site actually is. So I'm going to go ahead and say that.
Amazing. Oh, I can't wait to visit. I know I'm particularly look forward to seeing the hyena bones, and just the thought of such animals living in Derbyshire is amazing. So thank you so much, Jennifer and Rebecca. I've got the time, my clock's wrong, but we are at time now. So just to remind everyone that in 15 minutes we've got the conference introduction, starting with Tamsin Russell. Also, our tour tomorrow, the last of the week, is a special one, an exciting one, because it's going to be the winner of the Museum Change Lives Award. So we don't know who that is. It's going to be announced later today. But do try and join us for that surprise if you're able to. And Rebecca and Jennifer, thank you so much. We will see you when we can. You'll be having museum people lining up. So thank you, and thanks everyone for joining us today. Bye.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks very much, everyone. Thank you for all the kind comments.